ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Brother Lee. We always appreciate you coming by and sharing that when you came back. We just came back. We've been praying for you, and the Lord opened the doors, didn't it?
Yes.
And how many of you have ever witnessed to somebody that you thought was just absolutely beyond hope? Huh? Yeah. Beyond hope. Well, I've told you a little bit in the past about my Uncle Bill, the one that was a killer and terrible person, had abused me tremendously all of my young life and everything, and God put it on my heart to go. He was dying in the hospital, and I went up and talked to him, and I preached to him like he was like Jonah preached to Nineveh, and he was saved. Come to find out, many years later, I was kind of angry because this guy was bad. He was really bad.
You got mad saving him?
Huh?
You got mad?
I got mad because God saved him.
Oh.
If you'd have known the story, I mean, he almost killed me when I was like 2 years old. He beat me with an axe handle. He had killed 3 men that I knew of. I found one that he had killed, but he got by with it all the time. And when he grew up, he was his grandfather, or his father. No, it was his grandfather. His grandfather was Sam Paul, first senator of Oklahoma, which was, I'm Native American. Most of you know that. He was the first. He was a chief of the Chickasaw Nation, and the first senator of the state of Oklahoma. And anyway, Sam Paul killed 17 men, and he was a murderous man. But he signed any treaty that America wanted him to sign, so they kept him out of prison and out there so we could sign the deal. Well, anyway, he was going to kill my great-great-grandmother, and his son shot and killed him to save her life. Well, in the meanwhile, my great-grandmother was her child, and she had hit her out. And here comes Sam Paul again in the flesh with my Uncle Bill. He's a bad man. Oh, terrible, And when I was a little kid, he'd tear my hair out, just pull my ears off, just whatever, stole everything I ever had. He was a wino. And anyway, when God put it on my heart to go speak to him, it's
hard.
It's very hard to go talk to somebody that's been mean to you all your life, almost kill you and everything else.
He's loving,
murderous. Well, my grandmother got hit, and a car hit her, and she was dying in the hospital. And he was up there harassing me and telling me, oh, they're coming after her. She's dead. The meat wagon's coming for her. And doing this when she was dying, this is his own sister. He's bad. So when I went up there to talk to him, I said, Bill, you are the worst person that I ever knew in my life. You are going to hell, and you deserve to go to hell. And he starts crying, And I said, you know that I know you, and you deserve it. Well, he started crying, asking me to pray with him so he could be saved, and I did. And I went out there a little bit angry with God. If anybody ever deserved to go to hell, that was the one. But then, 20 years later, he had been dead for a long time, and I heard about his father being a very godly man. His mother was Sam Paul's daughter, but his father was I found out just lately that he was Ojibwe instead of Santee, Dakota. He was Ojibwe from Minnesota. And anyway, he came in and married my grandmother, and they had children. And this boy was the first-born son. He wanted that boy to be a preacher. His designs in his life, he prayed for that boy to be saved and to be a preacher. Instead, he was an alcoholic and a killer. He was bad. But his prayers, and I got 2 Bibles that he had given to my Uncle Bill, and marking sermons for him to preach in those Bibles, and leading him to salvation. And the answer of that man's prayers is when I went up there and witnessed to his son in the hospital. So 70 years later, probably. Now that's a long time prayer, but that's how things happen in life. And when you witness to people like that, sometimes you don't have any idea that they're going to be saved. You don't think there's any hope, like you dealt with those men there, and 2 of them out of 3 were saved. That's pretty good odds. Nineveh was a pretty good field, wasn't it? When Jonah went there, he didn't want any of them to be saved. You know why Jonah didn't want those Ninevites to be saved? because God had prophesied that they were going to chastise Israel. And they were the ones that invented crucifixion. Except it was impaling at that time. They'd stick them on a stick and slowly go down on the stick and kill themselves like that. These were bad people, but God saved the whole place, didn't he? He had a use for them. Now let's go back to the candlestick, okay? On page 63, all right, page 63, in your little handout, if you go over and turn it over to page 63 for the candlestick, on that one right there, it'll say 63, no, right on that one right there, page 63 at the bottom. All right.
Jim,
Let's
do you
look
have
at
another one of those for Dan Joe?
Yeah. You have one of these? Have you got that one? Okay. Page 63. Now, go back where we were a while ago. The almond orchard. What kind of rod did the rod? You know, Aaron's rod is actually Moses' rod. What kind of rod was it? Huh? From what?
Almond.
From an almond tree. Almond tree, Brother Wally says. He's got an almond orchard, so we'll just say that he's right. Okay, well I've always said almonds. Anyway, it was an almond tree. It was a limb off of an almond tree, okay? And the candlestick itself. Now, here it is on this little handout now. See the candlestick? As you walk into the holy place, and that's over here, the tabernacle right here. Now we've studied so far every bit of material, every color in the tabernacle and all outside here, all talks about the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Okay? As you go in, there's an altar there. The brazen altar. What does that stand for? It's brass. What is brass in the Bible? Judgment. Okay? And by the way, it's made out of, this is like a barbecue pit here, people. What's it made? What's the base material of this? It's wood. Now, none of you would build a barbecue pit out of wood. But what did the wood stand for? The humanity, that Jesus is God in flesh. Okay? That's the simplicity of it. Now, there's a lot of cults out there that don't believe that Jesus is God in the flesh. Well, the whole tabernacle, everything about the tabernacle is going to tell you differently. Wood is humanity. Brass is judgment. Okay? The sacrifice was there. Then we have the laver over there. That's where they baptized all the priests, and they had to wash their hands and their feet before they went in there and served. Okay? And of course, Jesus, we're washed by the Word, His Word. Okay? And then inside of there, you come in and you look at this over here to the right is the table of showbread. That stood for how many loaves of showbread was on there? It's called the presence bread, literally, in Hebrew. How many loaves were there? How many loaves of bread?
12.
12 loaves of bread. What do you think that typified? 12 tribes of Israel. All right. The 12 tribes of Israel. All right.
The completion of human government, numerology says.
What?
The completion.
12 is a number of human government. Also, and anyway, 12. There's 12 tribes of Israel, and there they are in the tabernacle. And God, they're always in the presence of God. God loves them. And the high priest garment, they had the names of all the tribes on it. As you look at the 4 flags, see the flags on this one? The 4 flags. You remember what these 4 flags mean? How many Gospels are there? 4 Gospels. How do the Gospels portray Jesus? Matthew portrays Jesus as what? The King of Israel. Look over there at the lion. The king of the beasts, they say. All right? And Mark portrays Jesus as what? The servant. All right? Luke portrays Jesus as what? The Son of Man, the head of the man. And then, of course, what do we have? John portrays Jesus as what? God in flesh, the eagle, the one that's closest to God, heavens. Okay? So we see all those 4 Gospels in the 4 flags that surround.
What was this one?
Okay, that's the calf, the servant.
The servant.
Yeah, the servant, the calf. Anyway, we see these in the 4 directions, but In there we have the table of showbread where God's people are always on His mind. Right straight behind there was what? Right straight behind the table of showbread was the altar of incense. The altar of incense typifies what? Jesus making intercession for us always. Jesus making intercession. Now let's go to the candlestick. We got this down. And let's look at the candlestick for a minute. The candlestick is on the left-hand side. By what did the priest minister in the... This is the Kadesh, the holy place. The Holy of Holies is a Kadesh HaKadashim. Okay? This holy place here is a type of the church in the church age today, where the Lord dwells with His people. The whole tabernacle, the whole purpose of the tabernacle, God says, I want to do what? To dwell with my people. All right? The name Jehovah in the Old Testament is what? What does the name Jehovah mean? We look at that. That's the word in Hebrew, okay? We don't know how to say it. We don't know how to say that name. We say it's Jehovah. In the Old Testament it'll say like that, Jehovah Elohim. All right? We can say the name Jehovah. All right? But what does Jehovah mean? It comes from this little word right here in Hebrew.
God.
Huh?
God.
What does Jehovah mean?
He who shall become.
He who shall become. That word right there means to become. That's it. All right? It's a little verb. Okay, a verb. It means become. When you become something, what happens? You change from one state to the other. All right? Now, the name Jehovah in the Old Testament, Jehovah Elohim, when God, from Genesis 2 and verse 4 onward, we see the name of God, Jehovah, used in the Bible. Okay? And it's Jehovah Elohim. Now, what's Elohim? Brother Lee used to tell us about Elohim a long time ago. Brother Lee, you remember what Elohim means?
I don't remember the phrase that we use, or I use for that.
Creator. That everybody has an Elohim. Remember? The whole world has a creator. Even the atheist. They just don't recognize
So,
him.
El Shaddai is who's he? The father of?
That's the all-powerful God, but the all-nourishing, powerful God, El Shaddai. Okay? In John 1:14, that is the fulfillment of this actual tabernacle. That's the fulfillment of the tabernacle. And it's also the fulfillment of the Jehovah title. All right? John 1:14. How many can quote that in Greek? Anybody here quoting Greek? Do any of them? Brother Mike.
Kailologo sarx genito.
Kaihologo sarx agenito. All right, there you go. See, I knew he had that. And the word there means Jehovah. And the Jehovah, sarx. Sarx. It's carne in Spanish. Meat, flesh, he became. That's the fulfillment of the Jehovah title. All right? And in the world today. So Jesus he said, I'll be with you. Where there are two or three gathered together as an assembly, I will be in the middle of it. The whole purpose of the tabernacle was to what? That God would dwell with His people. Now here we are in the holy place, Kadash. The church today is the holy place where God meets with His people. That first room right there. The first room. That's what we're talking about. Now let's look at the candlestick. Now what does a candlestick do? All right? It comes from the word, it's made like an almond. What does the almond mean? The almond branches. What does it mean?
Resurrection.
Well, it became Aaron's rod when it bloomed. That typified the resurrection. It also told them that this is the man that I want. What does the almond? What does it mean? The almond tree.
Well, it's one of the first fruits.
Well, it's one of the first fruits. It is the tree that wakes up early, and it actually means wakeful or hastening. That's what it means, wakeful or hastening. Jesus said in the last days that you look for some things in there. It's like the almond tree that blossoms in the spring. When you see these things begin to happen, then you know we're in the last day. Okay. Well, it means wakeful, the almond branch. But Now just think about that for a little bit. Now, do you think God forces anybody to be saved? No. Did anybody, God force you to be saved? There's a certain amount of volition in you that God will only illuminate you if you allow Him to. Now, He convicts every man this morning to this world. He convicts you with His Holy Spirit of sin, righteousness, and judgment to come. Okay? But there's a certain amount of willingness to that illumination. A lot of people get saved, they won't go to church. Where's the illumination in the world today? It's not home. It's a church. That Kadash is a very holy place. All right, that's where we need to go. Do not forsake the assembly of yourselves, as the habit of some is, the book of Hebrews says. All right, that's the place. You got to be willing. Willing. And then when you're willing, then you're illuminated. All right. And what does the candlestick do in the holy place? It illuminates you. Now, where do we get the instructions? Where's the instruction manual for the human life?
The Bible.
It's called Hekinah Diatheke. What does that mean?
The Bible.
The New Testament.
Oh.
The New Testament. But even the Old Testament, what does it do? It unravels the person of Jesus Christ and displays Him to us simply and plainly. All right? Now the candlestick. Let's go down here and look at the candlestick. Exodus 25, 31 through 40. Who's got Exodus 25, 31 through 40?
Is that a good?
Are you over there, David? He can.
25 what?
25, 31 through 40. Let's read that quickly. You got New American Standard or some pretty good translation in it. You know what it is?
You shall also make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand shall be of hammered work. Its shaft, its branches, its bowls, its ornamental knobs, and flowers shall be of one piece. And 6 branches shall come out of its sides. 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. 3 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms on one branch, with an ornamental knob and a flower, and 3 bowls made like almond blossoms on the other branch, with an ornamental knob and a flower. And so for the 6 branches that come out of the lampstand, on the lampstand itself 4 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms, each with its ornamental knob and flower. And there shall be a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand. Their knobs and their branches shall be of one piece. All of it shall be one hammered piece of pure gold.
All right. Yes, Brother Roy.
Exodus 31 what?
It's Exodus 25, 31 through 40. All right. Exodus 25. It's right on that little handout there. Tells you where this is. Now, it's flowers. It's kept saying flowers. What do flowers do? What do flowers do? Brother Wally?
They bloom.
They bloom. All right. And what they and they do they look pretty?
Homemade.
All right. They look pretty. You know what? Bees and flies and insects, they fly to the flowers because they look pretty. Okay? They look pretty. And what do they smell like? So now we got sight. They look pretty and they smell good. They smell very fragrant. All right? Now in this, along with all of this, there was a spice, a perfume that they mixed. All right? The perfume that they mixed with different ingredients. All right? And the olive oil that lit. Now these are not candles. This is there's a little basin on top of each one of these. It's like a kerosene lamp up there, okay? You know what kerosene lamp? How many of you ever seen a kerosene lamp? All right? Now a kerosene lamp, it has oil in it, and the oil here was olive oil. And it had to be consecrated olive oil. It had to be pure and certified by the rabbi, by the priest. Okay? And it has 7 branches. But that book keeps talking about 6 branches. doesn't it? What's the number 6 in the Bible?
Man.
Man. Was Jesus man? Was he man?
Yes.
Was he really in human flesh? Well, John 1:14 said that. John 1:18 says that. I don't care what any cult says, but he was flesh. He walked in the person of Jesus Christ. 6 is the number of man. But how many branches were there? It keeps ignoring the 7th one, the middle one, doesn't it? The whole foundation. Let's look at this lampstand now. Here it is. Here's the foundation right there. I'm not a very good artist. My wife's a whole lot better than I am. Okay. Here we've got 3 branches on each side, and 3 and 3 makes, you mathematician, how much is 3 and 3? Huh? Then we've got one lampstand here in the middle. That's number 7. What's the number 7 in the Bible? Perfection or deity. So now we have Jesus, that he's man and he's God. Okay? Now on each one of these we have a reservoir. On top of every one of these we have a reservoir. Now in Hanukkah, how many of you know what Hanukkah is? Hanukkah is a preview of Christmas. Alright? About 185 AD, you know, Antiochus Epiphanes, he ravaged the nation of Israel, went in there and offered swine flesh on the altar in the temple and everything. They finally, the Maccabees wrenched it back out of his hands. They went back in there, and I think it was December the 25th, 185 BC, if I'm correct on the year. They celebrated Hanukkah. They sent presents to each other. They sang songs, all this kind of stuff. And they had a different candlestick. It had 8 branches. But the middle branch was the Messiah, the servant branch. Just remember now. Remember these 4. Which one's the servant? Half. Which one is the servant? We have 4 Gospels. Which one talks about Jesus being the servant?
Mark.
Mark. Okay. Luke, the Son of Man. He was really man. Who was Luke? Who was Luke? If you want to call, if you go into court and you want to get a good, what we call an expert witness, you get an expert witness in that field. What was Luke? He was a scientist and a doctor in his time. He was a physicist, basically. He was a brilliant man. I translated his work from Greek, and he used some fantastic words and lots of medical terms, what we call medical terms. Okay? So we have an expert witness in the book of Luke telling us that the person of Jesus Christ really lived in the flesh, that he really died on the cross of Calvary, that he was really resuscitated, resurrected. Again, what's the word for resurrection in Greek? Who knows that? Come on, what's the word for resurrection in Greek? Anybody? What is it, Brother Mike?
Anastasia.
Anastasia. There is a Greek princess. Her name is Resurrection. What was her name? Anastasia. Russian. I mean Russian. Did I say Greek?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I meant Russian.
That's why we didn't know it.
The Russian princess, Anastasia, her name means the resurrection. Okay, the resurrection. All right. Well, he was really resuscitated. So we see all the Gospels. In the 4 Gospels, we see all the persons, like the 4 flags around the nation of Israel. And in here, we're studying the candlestick. Now, the candlestick is like an almond branch, or an almond tree. Who's the foundation of that tree? Who's the center branch? God. All right? In the Hebrew is very beautiful. I'm translating the book of Genesis right now, and I'll be teaching a class on the interlinear. I'm writing an interlinear of it. And I've translated this for you before, but the Hebrew is a real turning the light on. From what any translation is, when you look at it in Hebrew, it just blows your mind away. Okay? Because it's different. All right? God created man. How? In his image. All right? In his image. What is the man, the name for man? What is it? Huh? Remember what it is? Huh? Adam. All right. Adam. Adam. We get our name Adam from that. Adam. Okay. Adam. The Germans will pronounce it Odam. They got to change everything. Anyway, Adam. What's the middle of his name? What's that word? What's the root of his name? Love. How do you say earth?
The ha-ha song.
Adamah. Adamah. What's in the center? What is the root of Adamah? Dam. And what does Dam mean? Blood. All right? Just think about it. God created man not from dust, but to become dust. That's another little jar in your theological thinking. Not from the dirt, but to become dirt, to be dirt. Okay? And he breathed into him what? The breathings of lives. When God created Adam, you were there. Your life was in him. Now that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just think about it. He breathed into him the breathings of life. And what? Where is the vehicle of life in all animals and human beings? Where's the vehicle of life? The blood. Think about that. He created him from the same elements as he created the dust of the ground to become dust. And in the human family, we have Ish and Isha. Okay, Ish is what? Man. That means masculine man. Ish is masculine man. Okay. And then we have Isha. What does Isha mean? Out of man. That's woman. Woman in English means out of man. Oblative, out of man. And God, when He created mankind, He created, first of all, He created Adam. Of all. Adam did a lot of things before he created Eve. Before God created Eve, didn't he? What did Adam do before God hypnotized him?
Took care of the animals.
Huh? Animals were not created for your food, but they were created for your companionship originally. Okay? And Adam named all the animals, and it said there was not a companion worthy of him that met all his requirements. That's what it says there. Then it says God said, and literally in Greek, in the Septuagint, he says he hypnotized him. He put him into a trance, a deep trance is what it says. Hypnotized him. All right, it's hypnos in Greek. That's what it is. Hypnotized him. He put him in a deep sleep, it says, and then it says that he took from his sides. Now, when they translated that, King James translated, they didn't know what to do there. They didn't know what to do. So they said, well, he took out a rib. But that's not what it says. In Hebrew, it says it took from his sides, plural. And it took bloods from him, it took flesh from him, and bone from him. All right? All of that, he just took from all of his sides. He took woman. And then he fashioned her out of man. That's what woman means. Out of man. And he presented her to Adam in marriage. And he told him to be fruitful and multiply, and then Adam was happy from then on. They lived happily ever after if the devil hadn't gotten involved. All right? But then after they sinned, whose fault was it that they sinned? Adam's fault. It wasn't the woman's fault. The woman was what? The woman was deceived. Who was supposed to be the head of all the creation? Adam. We find out in eternity past that Lucifer was over the creation, the material creation of God, and he tried to overthrow the kingdom of God and take it all over. He at least, it says that he took 1/3 of the angels with him and the spirit world. There's spirits and angels. All right, spirits and angels out there. And he tried to overthrow God, but he didn't do it. But he did destroy the creation that God had made. And then God reconstructed, and he put a replacement on the earth to take his place, which was Adam. But he made Adam in his image, in his physical image. It says that God made Adam in his shadow-casting image. His shadow-casting image. Does God have a shadow? Evidently.
Apparently so.
Skia. Yeah, you remember that Greek word, didn't you? Skia. All right. You were getting there pretty good there, Brett. You get A+. Today. The Skia, the shadow casting image, and then it says in his blood flowing likeness. Where did the blood come from? That God breathed into Adam. From God.
God himself.
So now God is related to that creation. Isn't he?
Or he comes
Then when man sinned, in Adam what? In the Bible, in Adam what?
dead.
All died. Adam gave a death sentence to all humanity. Okay? But the woman did not. Ladies, you don't pass the sin nature on to the children,
Man,
nor do you pass death on to your children. You don't do that. You may die, but you don't pass death on to your children. Death doesn't come from you. It comes from the man. Not one drop of blood in a child comes from the mother. It comes from the father. Now, this candlestick typifies what? God and man, doesn't it? 6 and 7. All right? Now, when Jesus was he born of a woman?
Yeah.
He was born of a woman, Isha. All right? When Adam, after they sinned and everything else, what did Adam call his wife? He gave her a new name. Her name was Isha before. What did he name her? Eve. What does Eve mean?
Mother of living.
Living. Because she became the mother of all living. And then Genesis 4 and verse 1, when she had the first child, they named him what? Cain, which means what?
Begotten.
But it means gotten. We have gotten the man, and then it says, even the Jehovah. They thought the Messiah was born. Genesis 3:15 tells the promise of the Messiah is going to come through the seed of the woman. Okay, not the seed of the man, but the seed of the woman. Now, when Jesus was born, all right, we have two genealogies of Jesus in the 4 Gospels, don't we? Which books are they in?
Mark.
Which books are the genealogy of Jesus in? Come on, you Bible students. Huh?
Mark. Matthew,
No. No. It's in 2 of the 4 Gospels. We have 4 Gospels as in the 2 of the 4 Gospels. Which books are they?
Matthew and Luke.
Matthew and Luke. Now let's think about Matthew. Matthew looks at Jesus as the what? Matthew looks at Jesus as the King of Israel. All right? Whose genealogy is in Matthew? Who would you think? Joseph's genealogy is in Matthew. He should have been on the throne of Israel, but Esau's descendant was on the throne of Israel, which was Herod. The wrong family was on the throne. Which one of the 2 sons, Esau or Jacob, was the promised son? Jacob, not Esau. And here is Esau's descendant on the throne of Israel. He's an imposter. He's a toad squatting on the throne, okay, so to speak. Well, Luke. What was Luke again? What was Luke? A physician. He was a physicist. He was an anthropologist. He's an expert witness. And how did he write? Whose genealogy did he write in the Gospels? Mary's genealogy. The seed of the woman. So now Jesus is born into the world. Okay? He's born into the world. He's born of the seed of the woman, not of man. In the book of Enoch. How many of you have read the book of Enoch? All right. What does Enoch call the Messiah? The seed of the woman. The seed of the woman. The son of woman, not the son of man. Now Jesus, was he the son of man? He was the son of mankind, yes. But he was actually the son of the woman. Because he had no earthly father. God is his father. Where's the blood come from?
Man.
It comes from man. But where does Jesus' blood come from?
God.
God. Think about that. Is this unfolding a little bit? Beautiful, isn't it? Would Jesus have ever died? No. Because he had no sin in him. Because he had no earthly father. Can the woman bring forth a child without sin? Yes. If she had God as the father. If Adam in the garden, was he without sin?
Yes.
He's called the first Adam. Who's called the second Adam? Jesus. the life giver from heaven. All right? We have Adam, our first father, and then we have Jesus. Now, this is the one that is going to give life to all mankind. Did Jesus ever sin?
No.
All right, he did not. He never sinned. So now we have a perfect sacrifice. All the sacrifices that ever took place right here all portray Jesus. Everything in here. There's 48 boards around here. What are the boards made out of? Wood. Okay? What's the word for that? What's the word for that wood in Hebrew? Do you know? Brother Wally knows. What's it say there in the King James about those 48 boards? They're made out of shittim wood. Shittim. That's what the word in Hebrew is. Shittim.
Acacia.
Well, it's acacia wood.
That's just
Okay.
translated.
But it's shittim in Hebrew. All right. Anyway, here we have 48 boards. What do the boards stand for? Wood. 48. Wood. What are the boards covered with? Gold. What's gold in the Bible? That stands for deity. Wood stands for humanity, and we have deity and humanity. Here we have our Messiah. He is deity and humanity. This candlestick portrays him and portrays him in God's churches today. Do you understand this better than maybe before? I hope. All right, let's go on down and look at our, we're almost at the end of the class now. It talks about, it's the person of the Lord. Gold is deity down there in number, we're looking at the candlestick, number 9, and now we're down in B. And the person of the Lord, that's who he is. All right? The divine nature is emphasized. He is the true candlestick in God's churches today. He is the illuminator. All right? The divine nature is emphasized. If he were not of God, there wouldn't be any light in the world. In John the 3rd chapter, what he said? What does it say in John the 3rd chapter? Jesus is talking to the representative of the Sanhedrin. Nicodemus came there, didn't slip in by night, people. He came by night, all right, but he was a representative of the Sanhedrin court and the Pharisees. He was a representative of the Sanhedrin court. And if you study that in Greek, you'll know, because he'll say we. It's not I. When he talked to Jesus, it says we. And Jesus would talk to him personally at times, and he would talk to those Pharisees and the Sanhedrin at other times. And he told him, he said, you're supposed to be a doctor? Nicodemus was a rabbi, wasn't he? He was a Pharisee. A Pharisee means what? Comes from the Greek word, or the Hebrew word, pharis. All right? And in the days of Peleg, God did what? Divided the earth. The word Peleg is the root of that word Pharisee. It means separated or divided. The Pharisees said we are separate from all other mankind. We are the best. We are the we are the polished humanity. We are the best. Nobody's better than we are. We're the top of we're the cream of the crop.
They're the authority.
Yeah, they're the authority. Okay? They spoke Hebrew, many of them did. Most Jews didn't speak Hebrew. They spoke Aramaic, and they studied the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. When Jesus spoke and preached most of the time, he was teaching from Greek, the Septuagint. All right? Anyway, here he is. Now, what is the term rabbi? What does that mean? What does the term rabbi mean? Come on.
From a teacher.
No.
Is it doctor?
It's doctor.
Oh.
It means doctor of theology. That's what rabbi means. When they talked to Jesus and they called him rabbi, it means doctor. All right? A lot of people, especially doctors, when they talk to me, they address me as Dr. Phillips or Dr. Jim. Okay? Because I have 2 doctorates, one in theology and the other in Bible languages. And I'm recognized as an authority on those things. I'm not pumping myself up, but that's just, you go through a certain amount of things and you do that. Okay? You've spent some time. You're a scholar. Okay? So Jesus looked at this scholar, this doctor is talking to Jesus. Now he's a representative of all them doctors in the Sanhedrin and all those Pharisaical doctors. And he's saying, we understand that you are a rabbi, doctor of theology. Did Jesus, when he was a young boy, did he ever blow the minds of those Pharisees and the Levites and everything. Remember when he was 12 years old, he was there in the temple area and he was blowing their minds with the questions that he was answering them, and actually the translations that he was giving them. He was correcting their translations.
The two that's not so well.
Because he's the author.
Right.
He's the author of the book. The author of the book is there. Okay? And he's blowing up. They couldn't understand this. Well, they come to Jesus, and they've been looking at him for a long time. Okay? And they said, we know that you are a doctor and a master teacher come from God, because no man could do these miracles except God be with him. And then Jesus asked him a question. And he smarts off back to Jesus. And then Jesus says, you're a master teacher, a rabbi, you're a doctor of theology, and you don't know these things? You're supposed to be teaching? He said, you must be born again. Anaganation, that's what the word is. Born from above is what it literally means. Now, every rabbi knew what being born again was. Did you know that? How many knew that? Every rabbi was supposed to know what being born again was. When a proselyte came to Israel, from some other ethnic background, and they wanted to become a child of Abraham, you know, just recently I did my DNA. I found out I'm a son of Abraham. Yeah, through the Arab. The wrong side.
The Israelites.
Now, well, the Spanish were part Arab. You know, Spain ruled, the Arab nations ruled Spain for about 400 years, France and Italy. If you're Italian, French, and Spanish, you're part Arab, okay? Well, that's the wrong side of the.
What Maryland's about to be?
Well, she's part Arab too, because you got a little Indian in there. Anyway, so he tells Nicodemus, you must be born again. You must be born from above. And he kind of insulted Nicodemus, because he told Nicodemus, you're not spiritually all right, boy. You need to be born again. Now, you've been baptizing all these proselytes, dipping them, and telling them they need to be born again. And when they go down, they die to their old self, and they come up and are raised anew as a son of Abraham. You're in the Berith, in the covenant now. And they would die to their old ethnic background, be raised. He told Nicodemus, you need to die to your old self. He told him that the Pharisees weren't okay. That Sanhedrin was all messed up. You people need to be born again. You're telling all these Gentiles that they need to be born again. He said, you need to be born again. How can I be born again? So he says, surely I don't need to be baptized and die to my old self. Can I go back in my mother's womb again and come out again? And Jesus said, you're a master teacher of Israel. You're a doctor of theology, and you're a reprobate. You don't even know simple things. He knew exactly what being born again was. He had performed these baptisms, I don't know how many times. But Dr. John, somebody have a question? No. All right, let's go on a little bit further, just a few moments. So the candlestick is representing man and God. Man and God. We get our death from Adam, but we can get our life from the Lord of heaven, the second Adam. Any illumination that we get in this life comes from whom? God, the author of all life. All right? Let's go along down just a little bit further and we're going to quit. That almond, that perfume there, the perfume had to be mixed, and I believe it was from 4 different sources, and it was mixed with olive oil. This olive oil is a type of the Spirit of God, and every priest was anointed with oil, wasn't he, at some time or another? Okay. And the oil, the fragrance of the perfume that they used there, could anybody, do you have perfume at home? Anybody have perfume at home? Anybody have perfume? All right. Sure. I'm going to tell you something. That perfume there, if you went home and tried to mix this perfume and use it in your own life, what was the penalty?
I guess that.
Death. Now just think about this now for a while. That's a death penalty. What does the perfume stand for? It stands for Jesus Christ also. The perfume came from the olive trees. The fragrance of the olive trees. Okay? The blossoms. It typified that. All right? And the candlestick represented who? Jesus Christ, man and God. 6 and 7, Brother X.
If the 3 branches, or 6 branches, or whatever you want to call them, represents man, why did they need 6?
6 is the number of man. Man is triune, like God is triune. 3 and 3, isn't it? All right, there aren't 3 gods, and there aren't 3 of you. But you have 3 entities in you.
It's 3 in 1, right?
That's
That's the
right.
word.
It's triune. We get to your word Trinity. I don't like the word Trinity near as much as I do the word triune, because you get believing in 3 gods.
It's 1 and 3 instead of 3 and 1.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, and you, what are you? What are you made up of? Well, we can see each other, can't we? That's what? That's body. All right? And what gives you life?
Blood.
What gives you life? Where in you? Now, the life is in the blood. Okay, but where's the life come from? What is that life? It's what? Spirit. And then you have soul. Okay? When you're born into this world, you're triune. You're made in the shadow casting likeness, the spiritual likeness, and the blood flowing likeness of God, just like God. Okay?
So it's mind, body, spirit, or
Mind, body, and spirit. We have mind, where indwells the soul. We have spirit, and we have body. We are triune. Okay? Here on each side of the candlestick is triune, isn't it? Triune man, triune God. All right? We have God and man joined together. Okay? In redemption. Okay? Now, spirit. Ruah or pneuma. Okay? That's it. Both of them means what? What does it mean? It means wind or breath. When your spirit leaves your body, what happens to the body? The spirit leaves it. It breathes out. And every you see back there in Genesis, in the first few chapters of Genesis, it says Behemoth. And every one of them, it says so and so lived 900 years and Behemoth. And so lived 300 years and Behemoth. He died. The word died there, it means he breathed out. The breath left him. The spirit left him and left a dead body. When they used to, before we had modern medicine and ways to check your heartbeat and all that kind of stuff, people would die and they would take a polished piece of brass or something and they would put it in front of their mouth. They used silver to see if there was any breath still in there. If there was breath, it meant life, spirit. Okay? When the spirit leaves, the body's dead. All right? So we have spirit, we have soul. Soul and spirit. Soul is where all of your intellect and your mind and your volition and all of that dwells. And the body is the tabernacle of it. Tabernacle of it. John 1:14, and the Word, the Jehovah became flesh, and he dwelt among us, tabernacled among us. God tabernacled in flesh among us. Well, that's where we're going to quit for today. Thank you for your attention. I hope you learned something from God's Word. We'll come back here and we'll finish up the candlestick next week, just the topping on it, and then we'll get into it. We're going to move on. We do have our syllabus there. We'll just go on in the syllabus from there and study the different biblical things as we finish out the Old Testament. And then we're going to get into the 4 Gospels in the New Testament and some of the letters to the churches. All right? Do you have any questions before I turn you loose on the world? Go out and do something eternal.
That's your prayer request.
Okay, the prayer request. Brother David, come right up here, young man. He is our prayer leader and our...
real quick, Jim.
yes.
Like Hanukkah wasn't celebrated by the Jews first.
Hanukkah was celebrated because they got their temple back. Jesus celebrated Hanukkah.
Was the Hellenistic Jews
it was-
celebrated?
what?
Who was the one that did
The
celebrate?
Jews, and then in Germany, the Jews celebrated Hanukkah in Germany, and the Germans started Christmas. And that's where it came from in the modern world. Christmas came from Hanukkah. Okay? Thank you. Brother David.
Okay, on our prayer list today,
No, I don't have any.